Now, he was in our ears for nearly 30 years, and now he's hung up his broadcasting microphone.
Well, we're delighted we get the chance to talk this morning to the one and only...
Joe Duffy!
Joe!
Does that follow you everywhere?
It does, yeah, it does. The best thing, I've been filming for the last month around the country for meeting these incredible charities and voluntary groups that are supported by the National Lottery Good Causes. And I was walking through, I think it was Tralee, and fella, double take. This is about 2 weeks after I'd retired. And by the way, people have been so good. Like the two people that sent cards. Can I take this up? No, I got...
I'd say you got a hell of a lot more than two now.
I got a lot of cards. But this fella did a double take with me, and he says... And he turned around and came back, and he says, do you mind if I ask you, did you used to be Joe Duffy? I said, yeah. And I was until July the 1st, and then I went back to being whoever I was beforehand.
Yeah.
But it's been busy. It's been busy, and it's a great chance to get back around the country.
Yeah.
I've been handcuffed to a phone in RTE for 27 years on Liveline. So, and the parts of the country I hadn't been in literally decades, which is shocking.
Well, your time on Liveline, you didn't just show up at 1 o'clock and then go on the radio at 1:45. It was an early start.
Yeah, well, I think anyone in broadcasting, like yourselves, you have to keep...
Yeah.
You have to keep up to speed, and you have to keep on top of everything. And you got into a situation where I wasn't listening to radio; I was monitoring the radio and going from one station to another. And because by the time Liveline got on at 1:45, you had to be fresh. You had to try and come up with different topics that listeners would bring up. You can't just repeat the same menu all day. I was very conscious of that for the decades.
You kind of had to take the temperature of the country, really, and it was really good to see what people were thinking of, because that's what reflected in what you were talking about on a daily basis. I mean, we've got all the discussions over the years, and I remember I was raging when you did the menopause thing, because I'd been banging on about menopause for years on my own show, but the minute you started talking about it, there was a tide shift in the entire country. And
one of the great honours I got since I retired was... last week, the Menopause Hub Day, I got, on behalf of Liveline, obviously, an award for the work on the menopause, and that was incredible. It's just so uplifting to walk into a pharmacy and see the sign on the window. We're part of the free HRT scheme, and it did take off, but it was women. It was the women themselves telling their own stories, and every story was different. Every story was different.
But it's great that you gave a voice to it, because my own mother, your mother, would have gone through it in silence.
I know, absolutely, Martin. Absolutely, things that weren't talked about. But that a lot of that, I would be very conscious. On my shoulder a lot of the time is, what would Gay do? What would Gay do? And Gay was he was really, really keen, and as we know, going back to his radio programme, he wasn't afraid of anything, wasn't afraid of lawyers. I remember when I was producing Gay, and there was a row with the government, and the government were threatening to, one particular minister was threatening to sell off 2FM and turn it into an educational channel, which it is now, as you know.
educating what new? That is the question.
And take money off RTE. And I was producing that day, and I was called in by one of the bosses, and he said, go down to Gay and tell him when he opens the programme, he's not to mention that minister. He's not to mention so I went down. Gay would never speak in the morning, by the way. He could have won the lotto, but he wouldn't mention. But I went down and said, Gay, I've just got a message there from one of the bosses saying, under no circumstances are you to... OK, goodbye, thank you. Then the Tico's tune rolls at 6 minutes past 9. What does Gay begin with for 15 minutes? This is the most disgraceful government minister we've ever... He was afraid of nobody, which I really liked. And especially truth to power. He was brilliant at that.
That's changed quite significantly, do you think, over the last number of years? I mean, there's a fear around broadcasters.
Well, there's a fear of defamation. There's a fear of... Everyone just seems to run to the courts now. And I remember watching that brilliant. It was part funded by Irish, the film board here. The movie, I think it was called The Apprentice. It was about Trump, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And the big lesson I got from that was, he was told by one of his mentors, just sue. Just send a solicitor's letter or a lawyer's letter, an attorney's letter. Just send a lawyer's letter, and you'll frighten the whatever out of people. And there's a fair bit of that now in Ireland.
There's a few of them that are very good at doing that in this country as well. They the Voldemorts of the Irish, great and good. I do want to ask you though.
You'll be sued for that now.
Yeah, what do you say?
I haven't mentioned it. The rule
They're
of 15
already writing the letter.
haven't mentioned it. But I do have to ask you about how you ended up where you are. You come from a very working class background in Ballyfermot, and I know, like people in your area, getting to third level was a big achievement. You ended up in Trinity.
Yeah.
It's very important, I think, to have voices like that evolving through our broadcasting. I mean, are you aware of the impact you have had on other people who wanted to follow suit with you?
Well, I would hope so. When I went to Trinity, there was 3 of us there from Ballyfermot: Brian Dowling, Barry Cullen, and a 4 fella, David Jackson. 4 of us, and that was it. 40,000 people living in Ballier, and Trinity was our bus terminus.
Yeah, literally get off the 78 and you're in.
78 and you're in. And that's how I got involved in student politics. There was a new gate opened, the Nassau Street gate opened, and there was this big editorial in the Irish Times said Trinity is opened up to the people of Dublin. And I remember standing at the 78 bus stop in Ballier, and in my head composing a letter. And I still remember, this is 1977. And I remember that my opening in my head was like, do not be overcome by the fizz and froth that has accompanied the opening of a new gate. And the headline, Trinity opens up. In truth, Trinity is closed to the vast majority of people. And it was closed now to working class people, and class is a big issue. And it's an issue that's not really addressed. It still is.
Yeah, huge.
But today I was in some wonderful schools in Ballyfermot, the St. Dalton's, fantastic teachers. I was in another school which is now amalgamated, St. John's, where I went. And the principal was telling me that 40% go on to third level.
It's not about, that's
in my
brilliant.
day, it was less than 1%.
Yeah.
It's still not enough.
Yeah.
But it's on but the day I left St. John's in Ballyfermot, I hadn't a clue how to get into college apart from walk through the front gate of Trinity for a shortcut. I had no idea. We had no idea what you needed. We were never spoken to about it. We were taught. They talked to us about apprenticeships and maybe the civil service, but there was no talk of third level.
It's a great way to change.
It is brilliant.
And I just loved it. I just loved Trinity. Yeah.
I remember Trinity. That's where they made the Blue Max. That's all I knew. The Blue Max. It was an old First World War movie.
Educating Rita. They made it there.
Yeah. Blast from the past.
And the great train robbery.
Yeah, that's right.
I must have been in the background of so many movies.
Yeah,
and I did all my own stunts.
But TAP, the introduction of TAP has allowed more people to.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant. It's a
Trinity Access programme.
But I was down filming with the Maharees Conservation Association. They're brilliant. All these groups are just so brilliant, and they're all volunteers. And 4,500 groups are supported by the National Lottery Good Causes, and it's worth. I was struck by the number of people who really were appreciative, obviously, of the money to get the 4.5 million a week for good causes, and that the winners in the lotto are not just people who get the numbers.
It's the people who get
the winners
money,
are the lotto are the people who get the.
Yeah.
But I was in the Maharees.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sitting there. This is what I love about this country. This is what I love about this country. I'm sitting there, between when you're filming, for most of the day, you're sitting around because
shooting the breeze.
The weather was incredible. It was beautiful. And I'm sitting there, and this fella comes up to me, "How are you, Joe?" I said, "Good, yeah. How retired?" "That's great, yeah." That's your own name. He gave his name. Lovely man, an older man. And I said, "Where do you live yourself?" And he says, "I live here." I said, "Where are you from?" And he says, "You see that island out there?" Now, it was like looking, Elaine, at Corfu. Right?
Really?
It was so beautiful.
Wow.
I thought the Jurels were living out there. It was so gorgeous. The small
Clear
island,
day.
blue sky, turquoise sea, golden sand, right? And he said, I was born on that island, right? And I lived there with no water, no electricity, no sanitation, right? Now I'm thinking, as we all do, God, no Wi-Fi, no mobile phone.
Yes.
Peace and quiet. And I said to him, well, that must have been idyllic. He said, are you joking me? I said, are you joking? I won't use his...
Oh, I was about to say, he didn't say, are you joking me?
He says, are you joking me? It was like living in a prison with no release date.
Oh,
right?
Jamie.
He says, I couldn't wait to get off the island. He says, if I see another can of condensed milk, as long as I live, it won't be.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was... And I said, well, who owns the island now? He says, I do. And I says, well, obviously... You don't live there, but he said, no, but I rent it out, and people love it.
Yeah.
I don't know how many
That's
people actually rent it out.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that there is no electricity,
Yeah.
there is no running water, there is no Wi-Fi, there is
The
no
lights are out
mobile.
there,
Yeah,
basically.
But it was absolutely...
Speaking of the lights
But
being
like
out,
living in a prison without
Yeah,
no
but in
release
prison there's
date.
hope.
yeah.
There's hope.
You were actually in a prison once.
I was, yeah. When I was in a prison, I was probation officer.
Yeah.
And I was also, I was in over the medical card when the government tried to remove the medical card from students. So we protested, and 7 of us. Now, it was a civil case. The HSE at the time took the case.
Yeah.
Because we occupied their offices to try and stop them literally writing to people to take away their medical cards. And they took a civil case, and we said we wouldn't leave. They got an injunction, and then we were taken to
No, that's not the only
for 2 weeks.
controversy you've been involved in, really, because I have a bone to pick with you now.
Oh, good luck,
Number
good
one,
luck. Right.
not only did you not run for president,
Okay.
that's number 2, and number 2, you literally dropped a grenade into broadcasting here in Ireland when you stepped back from Liveline and the whole floodgates open now with all the changes left, right and centre. I mean, had you any idea the ripple effects that would happen?
I didn't. No, I didn't. You know, to be a kind of stuff. Did I do that? I know I didn't. That's not news to run of ourselves. Now, RTE have known. I extended my contract by 2 years. They knew I was not getting any younger, and I gave them plenty of notice that I didn't want to. They asked me to stay on, but I told them I didn't want to. But I wanted to. After 37 years. I wanted to see the Maharis again, you know what I mean? I wanted to meet people who were...
Go out to the island.
Yeah, go out to the island.
Have your can of condensed milk.
And funnily enough, someone said to me, are you coming back down? These people are restoring the sand dunes. Valdez Volunteer Group would get the money from the National Lottery. And so the same man said to me, come down in a few months. I'll bring you over to my place. And the people saying, like winter down here, Joe. Get a grip.
They come back in the spring.
I never knew this. One of the things, the sand dunes, which are stunning, they're world class, and the local group are restoring them and it costs money for fencing and the grass and all that area. But one of the great things about the group is they said to me in winter, I didn't know this. This village they live in, which is a busy village, Farmore, is cut off from civilization, not by snow like we know, but every year it was cut off by sand.
Wow.
The sand
In
used
Ireland?
to blow. Yes, it used to come in during the winter, and it would lodge on the road, right? And I said, well, surely you get a JCB, or he said, like this is Everest you were looking at.
Wow.
You couldn't move it, and that's one of the
Fascinating.
the reasons. Yeah. And then where was I? Really impressive was at the Eden Dairy Boxing Club, St. Bridget's.
Oh.
They were just brilliant.
Yeah,
and Eden Dairy, I don't think I'd ever been in it before, has no hotel. I think it only has 1 or 2 guest houses, lovely people. It has a street called JKL Street, and nobody could tell me what the JKL stood for. Some priest 400 years ago. But like what they did in that club was, in the boxing club, which has been going for 100 years, just in the next few years or so, mainly the same family, what they did was they built accommodation with the help, as I say, of the National Lottery, but they built accommodation.
That's what National Lottery Good Causes are doing, and that's what you're doing with them.
They built accommodation so they run camps.
Wow.
So like the Indian amateur.
Is this their new project, or is there another?
No, that's it. But they run camps. Now the other thing to talk about missed opportunities on the wall in Edenderry, in St. Bridges, is our murals, and Muhammad Ali is up there, right? And I said to John, I said, John Brereton, I said, Muhammad Ali wasn't here. He said, no. He said, but when he fought in Croke Park.
Al Blue Lewis.
Yeah, in what, 1972, I think. Yeah. Good man, Martin. And you reffed that match, I know that. Yeah. But when he fought, the Edenderry Boxing Club supplied the ring.
Wow.
Okay. They dismantled their ring and brought her from Edenderry to Croke Park, the biggest boxing event ever in Ireland. It's never been, I know we've had big ones, but it's never been surpassed. And I said, well, the ring, that's the ring Muhammad Ali fought in. Yeah. I presume it's in the GA Museum, or you sold it for $1 million. He said, no, when we brought it back to Edenderry, we'd know where to store it, because we got a new in the meantime. So we left it in one of my uncle's turf sheds. Right?
No.
And we came back the following year to take it and reassemble it and travel around the country. And he said one of his relations, unbeknownst, had come in, cut up the boxing ring to make posters for the election. So the sacred boxing ring that Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer of all time, danced in. He didn't box, he danced. It was used for election posters all around Edenderry and gone.
Now you're staying with us now, because after we're going to have the news headlines and a little break. You're going to talk to us more about Joe Duffy meets a project you are with the National Lottery Good Causes. But before we go to this break, I do need to ask you, poor Kieran Cuddy is going to need a little bit of advice now when he takes over the helm from you. What would you say to him?
Well, I've on a separate occasion I wrote to Kieran, because I really admired his work rate. I really admired his work rate, especially when he doubled his work rate. And he's travelling from Kilkenny, and he has a young family, and he's to get into Dublin city centre, traffic-wise. Kieran's found his voice. He knows his voice. Just be yourself. And the critical thing as well is, like, there's most hard workers in RTE. And remember, the people that make the programmes in RTE are not just the producers, and there's lots of really good producers, and I'm sure you'll have a brilliant team behind them, like here. But in RTE, there's a great collegiality. The people who make the programmes, it's like when JFK was visiting NASA in 1961, they were getting ready to put a man into space, and he's meeting all the generals and the scientists and the engineers and the astronauts, and there's this guy standing there with a sweeping brush, okay? And JFK, being JFK, he goes over to him and says, what's your own name? He said, well, whatever. He said, what do you do? He said, I sweep. He said, no, you're putting a man into space. You're part of this organisation. And that was the great thing about RTE.
That's a very important sentiment.
The people in printing, the guys who do the post, the women that are on reception, the men that are on reception, they're all part of one. And there was great pride in the place. And everyone's job, like here, is to make programmes. That's their job.
It takes a village, indeed.
Yes,
Now,
with each other, for each other.
Yeah.